All right, guys, here we go. So yesterday we started the notes for section 2.4. We filled in all the definition stuff, hopefully, got all the boring stuff out of the way, and now we can just start practicing the examples. But I just want you guys to let me fill this in again, just to kind of catch back up. If you are going to be asked to write the equation of a line, the equation of a line can come in different forms. So there is slope-intercept form of a line. That's everybody's favorite, hopefully, and that's just good old y equals mx plus b. Now, I think I made you guys do this yesterday. I asked you to put a box around it, or circle it, or star it, but I want you guys to know that when you go to write the equation of a line, that'll always be your go-to get started formula. Okay. And it's good because I know you all have it memorized. So it's nice and easy and you always know what formula to start with. Now, linear equations can also be written in what we call standard form. And we filled that in yesterday and we said that was ax plus by equals c. But we don't ever use that formula to get started. If the problem ever mentions standard form, then all they're trying to tell you is that's how your answer should end up. It does not mean that you start with that formula, because this is the formula we will use to get started. All right, and then I showed you guys yesterday, there is a third form of a linear equation, and it's called point-slope form, and it just comes from a variation of the slope formula, and it looked like this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is the slope of your line, and x1 and y1 are a known point. It's a point they would have to tell you that is on your line. I don't see any need for it, because nobody ever remembers the formula, and then they're always like, oh wait, who do we plug in for x or x1? Nobody ever remembers. So to me, there's no point in using this formula, because everything we need to do can be done with y equals mx plus b. And you guys all know that formula. So I'm not a big fan of point slope form, but I don't want you guys in your math future to be shown point slope form and say, man, my teacher never showed me that. Yes, I did. I told you there's a third form of a line. I just don't make you use it. If you are going to go on to calculus, then maybe you'll find a need for it later on. But right now, between Algebra 2 and pre-calc next year, we can survive with y equals mx plus b, okay? All right, so here we go. Let's do the easy examples first. When you go to write the equation of a line, if that's your go-to get started formula, then the slope and the y-intercept are the best information you can ever be told about a line. Because if they're going to tell you the slope and they're going to tell you the y-intercept, then you can pop those numbers right in for m and b, and you will write the equation in about 3 seconds. So that's the information we hope for. We hope for slope and we hope for y-intercept. So let's do those examples first. These will be the easy ones. So guys, write me the equation of a line whose slope is -1/2 and whose y-intercept is 4. Okay? Who's your go-to get started formula? Y equals mx plus b. Guys, I can hear someone's music. Come on. All right. If that's the case, they just told you the slope is -1/2. What variable represents the slope? M. So they just told you that m is -1/2. They told you the y-intercept is 4. What variable represents the y-intercept? So they just told you b is 4. Guys, plug those numbers right in. You got yourself the equation of a line. So it's going to look like y equals -1/2 goes in for m times x, and then 4 goes in for b. And you have just written a linear equation for a line that has a slope of -1/2 and a y-intercept of 4. That's how easy it should be when they tell you those two pieces of information. They're the best. All right, so guys, let's just do a bunch of problems like that. So what's a line going to look like, or an equation going to look like, for a line that has a slope of -3/4 and a y-intercept of -5? Can somebody say it out loud? I can call on them. Y equals, go ahead, I'm with you.
-3/4 x.
Yep.
-5.
-5, right? I know it says plus b, but guys, plus -5, we're in big kid math. Plus -5 is -5. All right, write me the equation of a line whose m is 6 and whose b is negative 8. What's that one going to look like? Perfect, done. Nice and easy. That's how easy it should be when they give you slope and y-intercept. All right, look at this one. I think they're trying to trick you. I think they want you to think, oh, slope is my fraction, the whole number is my y-intercept. But guys, we're not being asked to graph. So who cares? I didn't record.
I heard that.
Yeah, I thought you did. Did I?
You're doing.
Oh, I am. Okay, sorry. I know, this is why YouTube tells me to stop making videos. It's like, this lady's awful. All right, sorry. All right, I think they're trying to trick you. They want you to think that the slope is the fraction and the whole number is your y-intercept. But guys, we're not being asked to graph these. So who gives a darn if the y-intercept is an ugly fraction? We're not graphing it. So don't let the numbers trick you. Just do what it says. So what's this equation going to look like? Y equals negative 2x plus 1/5, right? Perfect. All right. Now this one, it technically has two answers, but one is definitely more simplified and more correct. What would the equation of a line look like that has a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of 0? What did that look like? Go ahead, Steven.
Y equals 4.
4x. Perfect. It would look like y equals 4 goes in for m times x. Now, normally, if you put plus 0 because your y-intercept is 0, guys, you're not wrong. And if that makes you feel more comfortable, great. That's great. The problem is, have you ever seen a math book or a math worksheet put plus 0 at the end of a problem? No, it is assumed. So really, the most correct and simplified answer is just y equals 4x, and we assume the y-intercept is 0. All right, what about this one? Ooh, I love it, but it's not correct. What if you had to have a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of negative 3? Go ahead.
Isn't y equals negative 3?
Exactly. Guys, can you tell me, what kind of line has a slope of 0? We wrote it down yesterday at the top of your notes. No, a horizontal line. And if you guys remember, when you are given the equation of a horizontal or vertical line, it's special. It only has one variable in it. So if you did this problem and you're like, oh, okay, slope is 0, y-intercept is negative 3. So you could say 0 times x, because m is 0, and then minus negative 3. You're not wrong, but guys, if there are 0 x's in a math problem, that means there aren't any. So the math book isn't going to write any x's in the equation if there are 0 of them. So it would literally just become y equals negative 3. And remember, on a horizontal line, it is the y-coordinate that never changes. So the equation just ends up being y equals whatever that y-coordinate was that never changed. So clearly on this line, every single dot had a y-coordinate of negative 3. That's what it means, okay? All right, so again, don't put that, put this. All right, and then last, what if your slope was negative 1 and your y-intercept was 7? What would that equation look like? Negative 1x plus 7. However, a lot of times in math, they won't write a 1. It's assumed. So really, the better answer would be just what? Negative x plus 7. That's what we should really be looking to put, okay? All right, so guys, hopefully, there's sometimes like, wait, that's it, it's too easy. It is too easy. If they give you the slope and they give you the y-intercept, you are set. That is what you want to know. All right, I put this one on here because I need you guys to be on your A game. You got to be on the lookout for all of this good information. We hope for slope, and we hope for the y-intercept. Guys, look at this one. Write the equation of a line that passes through the point 0, 2, and it has a slope of 1/4. Who's your go-to get started formula? Y equals mx plus b. Excellent. Who did they tell you that you really, really wanted to know? Clear as day. Slope is who? 1/4. We go the slope. But then they told you that your line has to pass through this point. Well, guys, does anybody recognize who that point is? It's who?
Y-intercept.
How do you know that that's the y-intercept?
Well, because it's 0.
Who's 0? X. Guys, if you are an intercept, that means you land right on an axis, which means one of your coordinates has to be 0. And if you are a y-intercept, then you have a y-coordinate, but your x-coordinate is always who? So you guys have to keep your eyes peeled. Don't let them sneak any important information by you. So right now it looks like, man, they gave me slope and they gave me a point, but they didn't give me the y-intercept. Oh, yes, they did. If that point has an x-coordinate of 0, they are trying to sneak the y-intercept by you, disguised as an ordered pair. So you have to know right away, if the x-coordinate is 0, they've given you the y-intercept. And you don't want to miss that. Because if they're going to give you the good information, you don't want to turn this into a longer, harder problem when you don't need to. So we know that right there, that is the y-intercept, which is your b, which has to be 2. So you have been given all of the good information. So the equation will look like y equals, my slope was 1/4 times x, and my y-intercept was 2, because they are not going to sneak it by me when it's written as an ordered pair. Now, please watch out. If the y-coordinate was 0, is it the y-intercept? No. It has to have an x-coordinate of 0 to be the y-intercept. All right, here we go. So now look at the back. This is another type of problem that is still, I would say, categorized as easy. All right. Now, they are going to ask you to write the equation of a line when you've been given its graph. All right, so look at example 4. Given the graph of a line, write the equation in, what form do they want you to write the equation in? In what form? Standard. Guys, that does not mean that we start with standard form. Who's your go-to get started formula? Y equals mx plus b. All that means is you have to end up in standard form. It has nothing to do with how you get started. All right, guys, look at this line. Slope and y-intercept are the pieces of information we need. You tell me right now who his y-intercept is. 2. It crosses the y-axis right there at a y value of positive 2. So plug that right in. You know that the y-intercept is definitely 2. Now, pick 2 dots and calculate your slope. Get a little rise over run and get the slope of this line. Now, guys, the good news on Delta Math, they finally put dots. So when you do these problems on Delta Math night, there should actually be dot to dot that you can predict the slope, not you finding the good points yourself. All right, so I'm going to say this dot to this dot. So if I want to go from him to there, do I have to go up or down? What's my rise? I have to go up or down. How many? What's down 1 is a number. -1. So my rise is -1. Then I had to go to the right. How many? Is right positive or negative? So my rise over my run is -1/4. And guys, you tell me right now, what slope should this line have if it slants left? A negative slope. So my slope is -1/4 times x plus 2. So if they're going to give you a picture, hopefully you'll be able to pick out the y-intercept right away, and you'll be able to calculate your slope using rise over run. So I still think these are easy. All right. Are we submitting that as our answer? No. Now we got to get it in standard form, which means you got to get x and y on one side first. So guys, you tell me right now how I can get these x's to cancel and move over here. Add them. Right? They're negative, so add them. Question, Steven?
No.
You were going to say that?
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, now we have the positive 1/4 x that we move over, plus the y that was already there, and it equals, who's the only number over here? 2. Okay. 2 conditions have to be met to be in standard form. Number 1, and we practiced this in the warm-up yesterday if you weren't here. We practiced doing this yesterday. The number in front of x has to be positive. Is it already positive? So that's one less thing we have to worry about. And the only other thing you have to make sure of is you're not allowed to have fractions when you're in standard form. So guys, we're going to get rid of the fractions just like we did back in chapter 1. Look at the bottoms. Who's the only bottom you can see right now? 4. 4 is the only bottom. So you got to find the least common multiple of your denominators. But guys, if 4 is the only bottom, what's the least common multiple of a 4? Not a multiple of 4. It's 4. 4 is his first multiple. So we're going to take 4, and we're going to times all the tops by 4. So multiply this top by 4, this top by 4, and this top by 4. And I don't care how you do this, whatever works for you. You can either do 4 times 1 is who? 4 divided by 4 is 1x. Or cancel your 4's out, and you're left with 1x, which is just x. What's a 4 times a positive y? Positive 4y equals, what's 4 times 2? 8.
I have a question.
Go ahead, there.
How many things are going to be on the test? Like, how many questions?
We're going to have a whole quiz on this.
On just these?
Just writing the equations. And these are the easy ones. Wait till day 2 and day 3.
I'm talking about the standard form.
Oh, the standard forms, I only, maybe 2. Otherwise, I let you leave it in slope intercept most of the time. I don't make you do this all that often. Yeah, no. A lot of times you just leave it in slope intercept. Most of the time. And I think your homework makes you leave it in slope intercept every time. Okay? All right, now let's try what I'm going to call the harder ones for today. All right. All right, so these ones should take a little bit more work because these ones are not going to tell you both pieces of information. They're not going to tell you the slope and the y-intercept. So we're going to have to work a little bit harder. All right, look at this one. This one says, write the equation of a line in what form? So that means you're allowed to leave your answer in slope-intercept form. That's great news. If it doesn't say which form, then you just assume slope-intercept and you leave it in slope-intercept. All right. Our line, guys, it has to pass through this point, and it has to have a slope of -3. Okay. Who's your go-to get started formula? Okay, so we got that. What piece of information out of this and that is a really, really good one to know? The -3. He's clearly the who? The slope. We know the slope is -3. That's going to be extremely useful. And it's a whole number. A lot of times slope can be a fraction, and now you got to work with fractions. So if they're going to gift you a whole number slope, it's even better. All right. Now, I know the slope is -3, right? I'm hoping for the y-intercept. So guys, you check that ordered pair. Is that the y-intercept in disguise as an ordered pair? How do you know it's not? Not that there's no 0. Who's not 0? X is not 0. If this was 0, -4, man, you got a y-intercept. But the minute the x coordinate is not 0, guys, that's just a random point. That is a random point that has to be on our line. So right now, the only good piece of information we got is him. So plug it in. So this is what we're working with right now. We got the slope. It's awesome. It's like, damn, if I just knew B, I'd be done. But we don't know B. The only clue they gave us is this random point. But guys, think about what it means. If you are a point on a line, then this has to be an x coordinate and a y coordinate that make that equation true. Because that's what the graph is showing you. The graph is showing you all the x and all the y values that have to make your equation true. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow this point. That is a known x value and a known y value that have to make his equation true. So we're going to plug them in for x and y, and then we'll solve for who b needs to be. All right, so we're going to borrow this random point, and we're going to help us solve for b. So we're going to borrow, what was it, 5, -4, and we're going to solve for b. All right? Because remember, when you write your equation, x and y always are part of it. So we're only plugging them in for x and y for a second to get b. But then we'll go back to being x and y as part of the equation. All right, so guys, we're right here. Take this, and let's plug in the x and the y coordinate. So who is the y coordinate from the point we are borrowing? -4 equals -3. We already knew was our slope. Times, not x, who's the x coordinate from the point? 5, and then plus b. And now b is the only variable here, and we'll be able to solve for him. So let's clean it up. This is going to be -4 equals, what's -3 times 5? -15, and then plus b. What is the only thing that you need to do to get b by itself? Add 15. And then we know that B is equal to 11. So now you know B, you already knew M, you are ready to go. All you gotta do is pop B right there, and you'll have your equation of the line. So it'll say y equals -3 times x, and then who was B? Plus 11. And you're done. Okay? But this is what we have to do. All right, so when they're gonna give you a slope and a random point, then you're gonna have to plug it all in for m, x, and y, and you're gonna have to solve for b. Now, some students get down here and they're like, man, that was okay, b's 11. But then they forget to write the equation. They think like 11's the final answer. No, the equation of your line is the final answer. All right, let's try this one. I'm gonna do this one with you, and then you're gonna try the last one on your own.
I need to make my charges.
Top with top, bottom with bottom. All right, here we go.
Oh,
This one says, and guys, it is not good news. This one is like the worst case scenario for us right now for a couple reasons. Look at what it says. Write the equation of a line. Ooh, in what form? Standard, which has nothing to do with how we get started. It just means we have to end in standard form. So it's just going to make the problem longer. All right, so we have to end up in standard form. Our line has to pass through this point, and it has to have a slope of -2/3. Okay, let's get organized. Who's your go-to get started formula? Y equals mx plus b. We're ready. We clearly know that the slope is who?
negative.
All right, we know m is -2/3. If we got b, we're home free. Is that b written as an ordered pair? How do you know that is not the y-intercept? X ain't 0. So that's a random point that we're going to have to borrow. So at least right now, at least put the good guy in. Put slope in. Okay. So again, if we just knew b, we'd be done. But we don't. So we're going to borrow the other clue, that x-coordinate and that y-coordinate that have to make our equation true, and we're going to borrow them to see who b needs to be. So borrow that point. So guys, this is a bad problem for two reasons. Number one, we got to end in standard form. That's never good for us. Now, slope is a fraction. So now when you start plugging this point in, now you got to work with fractions. Okay. I don't know what I just did. Oh, borrow. Borrow this -4/3 and solve for b. Here we go. Now, you're going to have a calculator. I never take it away from you. I'm going to show you how to do it without one. But you do whatever you got to do when you're on your own. All right, so we're right here. Let's plug that point into this. So, guys, what is the y-coordinate from the point we are borrowing? 3. Equals -2/3, we already knew, times who's x? Who's the x-coordinate from the point we are borrowing? -4, and then plus b. All right, we got this. We can do this. Let's multiply these together. So put that over 1. And then we will get 3 equals, what's -2 times -4 on top? 8 over 3 times 1 is 3. And then plus b. So guys, at the end of the day, the only thing you need to do to get b by itself is do what with the 8/3? Minus it to the other side, right? Okay, so that means you have to take 3, you have to subtract 8/3 from him, and that is what our b will need to be. So if you have a calculator, please feel free, ask it. What's 3 minus 8/3? If it gives you a mixed number, then use your little mixed number loop to turn it back into an improper fraction. Otherwise, guys, we got this. If you take a standardized or an AccuPlacer college entrance exam, guys, you have to be able to do this with fractions. They're not going to let you use a calculator. So put it over who? And if you want to subtract, get a common denominator. What is a common denominator between 1 and 3? 3. So I make him a 3 by timesing by 3, which means I have to times that by 3. So I'm actually going to get 9/3 minus 8/3. And then at the end of the day, what's 9 minus 8 on top? 1 over the common denominator of 3. B is 1/3. So that's the missing y-intercept from this problem. So all you got to do is come back here and pop 1/3 in for b, and then that'll be your equation. So let's do that. So y equals -2/3 x plus 1/3. I told you this problem has all sorts of messed up. Why can you not leave that as your answer?
Can't bring those.
Gotta put it in standard form, right? All right, so if you're gonna put this in standard form, first move, how do you get x on the same side as y? It's negative, so now you gotta add it. Which is good for us, because we don't want the number in front of x to be negative. So now we're gonna have 2/3 x plus the y that was already there equals the 1/3 that was left on the right. All right, two things have to happen right now. The number in front of x has to be positive, but is that already good? Now all you gotta do is get rid of those fractions. So guys, look at the bottoms, the bad guys. Who's the only bottoms here? 3 and 3. So who's the least common multiple of a 3 and a 3? No. The first multiple of 3 is itself. So it's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So who's the least common multiple of 3 and 3? 3, himself. So we're gonna multiply all your tops by 3. And the fraction should disappear. All right, what's 2 times 3? Divided by 3 is 2 times x, because really your 3's should cancel, and you're left with 2. What's 3 times positive y? 3y, and it equals, you do whatever you gotta do. What's 1 times 3? Divided by 3 is 1, or just cancel your 3's and be left with the 1. And there is the equation in standard form. So again, I see standard form and I'm like, oh no. I want you guys to do the last one. Same idea. We're gonna give you a slope. We're gonna give you this random point. You gotta plug it all in and solve for b. You can go ahead. And again, notice this one you're allowed to leave in slope-intercept form, so it's better. It's quicker to end.
Can I go to drink water and come back and do
Yep,
it?
go ahead. Hydrate.
And then can I come back and do it?
Yes. Are you gonna where? Up here?
Yeah.
Oh. And please don't let the fractions be the problem. You do have a calculator that will do it for you. I think you should try to do it on your own. But at the end of the day, you do have a machine that will do it.
How do you turn the proper fraction into the fraction on the
Mixed number, give me the mixed number. Give me the, wait, the mixed number?
Yeah.
Give me it.
Can you do it on a calculator? -3/3.
Okay,
-3/3.
that's definitely, that's what I like. All right, so now, forget the negative. That just means your answer is negative. Do 3 times 5. What's 3 times 5? No, forget the sign. Just, it's already negative. What's 3 times 5? 15 plus 3. Close.
What?
15 plus 3, 18.
Oh, 8.
And then put it back over the original denominator, 5. So you multiply, you add, you put it back over the 5.
Oh, you keep this.
Yeah, because it's a negative number, it's a negative fraction then.
My brain says I had that already.
They may have a button on here that does it.
I had it already. I didn't do it.
Yeah. Did you do that part yet?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get. I got this.
Now, shouldn't you be adding him? Because it's gonna be negative 18 fifths, so shouldn't you add him to the other side? So it should be plus 18. And now, as you calculate, what's negative 8 plus 18 fifths?
I know.
School. How did they get school property at the bottom of the calculator? Is it actually just school property?
What?
The calculator.
What does it say?
It says school property.
Oh, it must be like geared towards selling it for school, yeah. I never realized it said that.
He was
I didn't realize that. Hope we all have that. That's our go-to formula.
Oh, my brain's supposed to be
Guys, it's only gonna get harder each day, so this is, we gotta take it all in, one step at a time.
Just when I understand the party.
on the test.
We move on.
Wow.
So the good news is, they're telling you to write the equation in slope-intercept form so we can leave it in y equals mx plus b form. Your line has to pass through this point, which unfortunately is not a y-intercept because x is not 0. It's a random point that you're going to have to borrow, but the slope is 3/5. So I hope you all started by plugging the 3/5 in. Get that slope in. He's a known piece of information that we like. All right, we don't know b, so you're going to have to use everything they gave you now to find b. So take that point and borrow it and find b. And it's not pretty. B is not a pretty number. It is an improper fraction, but hey, we're not asked to graph it, so what do we care? Keep going, come on.
What do we do tomorrow?
Yes, Chris!
Yes, right. What are we doing tomorrow?
Remember, Steven, when it's over 1, so you're only multiplying straight across. So your denominator, you can't do both. So it's -18 over 5 times 1. 5. Straight across. We're doing this again tomorrow, but just they're going to give us different kinds of clues.
We're just redoing this tomorrow.
No, I have to add to it. What if they give you these clues next? And what if they give you these clues? Oh, no. What's up, Cole?
I'm about to be lost. So basically, I'm feeling this stuff.
You're going to be fine. Yes! Wait, you didn't have to go to standard form. You actually got to stop right there.
I think I did it. I think I practice.
Yes. All right, let me catch up. I'm going to plug in my y
Yeah.
and my x.
Sorry,
What you got?
so
I know you're right because I saw your answer.
if it's in slope intercept form, we can leave them both as fractions, right?
Yes. Slope-intercept form is allowed to have fractions. I hope you plugged in the -8 for y and the -6 for x, and now it's just all about your algebra. Can you get b? So we're going to do -8 equals, put it over 1, straight across. -18 over 5. And then the only thing I have to do to get b by itself is add this over. So really, -8 plus 18/5 equals b. So I'm going to get a common denominator, and I'm going to add them together. What's a common denominator between 1 and 5? 5. So I got to make him 5, and then I got to do that. So then you get -40/5 plus 18/5. Guys, add your tops. What's -40 plus 18? I saw it on your paper. Some of you have it. -22 over 5. -22/5. That's your b. So put it in right there, and you're done. Y equals 3/5 x minus 22/5. Now remember, guys, we are juniors, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. It's going to sound really, really bitchy. We are juniors sitting in Algebra 2. If adding fractions is where we get lost, we got problems. Because you have a calculator that I'm letting you use. So if you're even struggling with the calculator, ask me. Let's make sure you're typing it incorrectly, all right? If you don't know who to plug in where, that's one thing. But if you get here and you're like, yeah, I can't solve that, that's not okay, all right? All right, so you're going to have homework tonight. Half the questions give you a graph, so they'll be quick, because you can get your slope and y-intercept. And then half the questions give you a point and a slope, and you'll have to do this. It's due tomorrow night at 11:45. But guys, tomorrow's Friday, so try to get it done. All right, so you don't have to do it on a Friday night. Yes. Remember here, you had -8 equals 3/5 times -6 over 1 plus 8. So then this becomes -18/5, and you had to add it over. So where did you go from here? -8 and 18/5. Did you do that? No, I just realized. No, do it again. Oh yeah, look. What is 4 times 5? 20. 20 plus 2. 22. We got a -22/5. You don't worry about the negative, just means your answer is. So you do 4 times 5 times 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22, over 5, and you just make it negative. Don't do -20 plus 4. No. Just do this. Don't worry about it. Just make your answer known. Okay? You got it. Oh, my leg. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Shamaya.